Hey, everybody. Good morning. This is Claudia Da Silva, your favorite redhead realtor with the Palm Leaf Realty Group at Coldwell Banker. I wanted to welcome you into our page today. Where we are going to have a live interview with an awesome insurance agent in town. I'm so excited that we have some awesome live interviews coming up. So if you have been following us, we do have um, a few more interviews lined up within the next few weeks. So we're going to talk about loans for heroes. We are going to be talking about interest rates, what affects them. We're going to talk about credit. What's credit? How can you improve it? So we're going to have a credit specialist with us. Talk about all of these things so we can help you take that journey to home ownership and make it so much easier. So without further ado, because we're already running a little bit late, I'm going to ask my guest to join us. So Chris with a K, welcome. Hold on. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you
It's
for
good.
having me today.
Of course. Thank you for joining the family of the Palm Leaf Realty Group. We have had some amazing interviews throughout the years. And we are here to educate the consumer. We are here to go straight to the source, educate buyers and sellers. So I would like to let you know right now, before Chris introduces himself and starts talking, that if you're not a home buyer, you already have a home and you have a policy, Chris can help you out, figure out if that policy is in good standing and if it's where you need to be, right? So, Chris, let's get started. Tell us who you are, what you do, who you work for.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Chris Alfaro. I go by Chris with a K, right? So that's why I work with Goosehead Insurance. I'm an insurance broker. So for property and casualty, that means that my bread and butter are policies for homes, for autos, umbrella, flood, and I do life insurance as well. So by being a broker, I have access to more than 45 different carriers. So my job is to make sure, my clients are in the best spot in terms of protection and in terms of payment. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I speak Spanish, a little bit of Portuguese with Claudia sometimes, and yeah, I know that that part is it's a cultural thing, that people will feel more comfortable in their native language, though they speak English. But yeah, I can serve as everyone like that, like on their preferred language. If I don't know the language, I'll try to learn it.
Absolutely. Also, it's very important to have someone that understands the Latin culture, Hispanic culture. And the reason being that I myself come from a different country where home buying process is very different. It's pretty similar to what's going on in Central America and Latin America, and not what's similar to North America or even some other European countries. So it's very important to have someone that sometimes can compare. Hey, listen, this is what you're used to. This is how we do it here. This is how I explain to people the home buying process. A lot of the times they just go to, like the to do an escritura, to go somewhere, to just do a notary. And here we have like a title company. So it's good to, help people understand that insurance is also connected to credit, and it goes back to what's credit. And credit is very different here in the US and in our countries of origin. And it's very important that we're going to have a class on that as well in the future. So stay tuned for that as well. Okay, so I'm so excited. Chris is part of my team. Every vendor I have, they're like family. They're part of our team. They help our clients, and we're here to help you. So we're going to start with, what does a standard policy look like and what is excluded, Chris?
Okay, that's a really good question. Um, the way I'm kind of, well, not kind of, but really big on educating my clients, because I remember the first time I bought a vehicle, right? They were telling me you need to have insurance, and I called an insurance. I wasn't an agent back then, so I was like, you can have this, you can have that, you can have this, and I was like, what? And that's what happens, whether if you're shopping for home or for auto. Um, Sometimes we just want the best price because, like, who wants to pay insurance? Insurance rates are too high. This company denied my claim, so we don't know what we have, right? So what is like a standard in a policy? So you can think about this like Menchie's. This is this place where you go buy some yogurt and you can put whatever toppings you want on it, right? So your yogurt, like the base of the policy, includes I will say, hold on, one, two, three, four, five, six factors, right? There are like mandatory for you to have in the policy. So we have the main part. This is like the dwelling coverage. It's also known as coverage A, right? So this is the number that you will have access to in case, God forbids, you have a total loss. So this is like the main part. Now, out of that amount, revolve like the other coverages are going to revolve. So we have coverage B, which is other structures. This is whatever is not attached to your home, like the fences, any sheds, or whatever is detached to the house. This is usually it's a 10% of the total amount. So, for example, if you have a $250,000 policy, 10% of that will be $25,000 to cover whatever is detached, if that makes sense. Um,
Yes.
Coverage C is your personal property, right? Think about that as whatever you move into the home with, like your clothes, your appliances, and personal property.
Furniture. Hmm.
Yeah. You also have something that is called a coverage D, or loss of use. So, God forbid, a hurricane comes to Texas, and then a tree falls in the roof, and you cannot stay in the property. So you need to pay for hotels, for Airbnbs, and of course spend money because in food because you're out. This will be included in the policy. You also have coverage E, which is personal liability, in case like someone sues you or anyone that lives in your household. You will have a certain amount to protect yourself. And finally will be coverage F, as in Frank, which will be medical payments. This is when you're not liable. Let's say that you're having a party watching the Super Bowl, or the or whatever, like a get together, and a friend goes heavy on the beers, and then he or she will like sprain the ankle. That's not you being liable, but since that happened in your home, you can cover that person through medical payments. So that's basically like the mandatory part. There are some things that you can exclude or include, like as I was saying, the toppings on
Right.
your yogurt, like the water coverage. Um, this is like not mandatory for you to, for example, if you're in the buying process, the first things that I mentioned, those are like mandatory,
They're
like
required. Yes.
they need to have that on a policy to be able to close escrow, right? But the other ones, like water coverage for water backup, for example, let's say that a kid throws like a, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, hold on. Before we go to that part, let me break something down. So, if you are a home buyer, we just started the process. I wanted to ask you this. What do you need from a home buyer in order to talk about the policy? Do you need any documentation? Do you need to run credit? How does that work? Before we even go to the other questions, can you?
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So whenever you're getting a policy, let's say that you and I were competing to get the same home. My
Right.
credit is terrible. Your credit is on the 800s, right? So whenever you're getting a quote, there are two factors that we take into consideration: the home and the person that is like requesting for the policy. So
Right.
my credit will have an impact on whatever price, like if I have any past claims and whatnot. So I need to collect your information for underwriting purposes. I need to know your date of birth. I need to know your current home address, like mailing address.
Okay.
To check credit as well, so just general information. Sometimes if you're married, you want to check or give your spouse's information, like because two people getting info from two people usually tends to give like lower rates. So that right there is a trick and tip, tip and trick, so that you can do while getting quotes, and make sure as well you give your auto information, because like when we're bundling things, you can save up to 30% on both policies, and that's something that a lot of people don't know, that you can save a lot of money when you're bundling things. So
Absolutely. And I have a question specific to that for you in a minute, but actually, my clients are very happy with you, Chris. Chris, you helped us with a couple of clients already, and they are so excited because you were able to give them umbrella policy. We're going to talk about it in a minute, and they save a ton of money. Because we are here not just to help you buy the home. We want to make sure that you have, savings overall. And if we can, help you save also on the household insurance, why not? And make sure that you are protected. So that's really, really important. So we talked about what were the main things, the things you must have and what you need in order to get that policy. Now let's talk about the things that are the extra toppings. What are the extra toppings? For example, I had the question, do I need additional coverage for flood, earthquakes, or other specific risks in my area? Tell us a little bit about this, Chris.
yeah, so this is a good question because it goes state by state, right? Like for example, in Florida, hurricane is a real deal. In California, you have the wildfires, and here in Texas, because we're a coastal state, sometimes you're required to have coverage for flood. So this depends on the flood area that you're on. Like X is where you want to be, which is a flood zoning that technically doesn't like have that bad of activity when we have flooding. But if you're in flooding areas like AE, then your lender is going to tell you, hey, we need flood insurance. So that from being a top and will be part of the yogurt, like it's mandatory.
And it's important to know because, guys, if you are buying a house right now, if you're in the market to buy a home, let me tell you something. I'm not concerned about the interest rates right now because when they come down, you refinance. Now you buy when you have less competition. I'm worried about insurance. Chris is here to attest to that. Insurance has changed, is changing because climate, because a lot of storms. We are seeing more and more the increase on deductibles affecting premiums on people. So this can affect your mortgage. This can affect your affordability. So it's really important now when you're looking for a home to work with an expert team like myself and Chris, that we are doing all this background work even before we put an offer. Because if right off the bat we're doing the homework and we see this is going to beat you out to the number you had that you want to pay a month for your mortgage, that might not be the house for you. And we are talking not just about the toppings, but also the things like the age of the roof, AC, water heaters, all of this is coming into play. So flood insurance is not required, is not mandatory, but oh boy, even if you are on zone X, please get it. It's not that expensive and it doesn't affect you by much and it gives you peace of mind, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, you don't need insurance until you do. That's what I tell all my clients, And there is one thing with flood insurance that I want to like mention because it's really important. If there is a storm in 2 days and you're like, okay, I'm going to turn on my flood insurance and then I'll turn it off after the storm passes or hurricane or whatever, you cannot do that. Some carriers can take up to 30 days to activate your protection. So meaning that if you buy it today on the 24th, October 24th, most likely your protection could be activated on up to November 23rd. Sometimes it takes 10 days, 15 days, depending on the carrier. But that's one thing that you want to have, because it can get bad. Look at Harvey, for example, in 2017, the Humble area, which is like an X flood zone, it got like flooded. So it's just better to be prepared. That's the thing with insurance.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned something briefly before, the water coverage that is not the flood.
Yeah.
I want to relay this information to you, you guys. It's so true. You don't need insurance until you need it, right? And I had that problem. My home, I had the pipe burst. It was not from the freeze. It was just because of, home ownership pride means update your home, keep your home, make improvements. So the plumbing, if your house is over 20 years old, make sure that you are making, all the necessary updates and upgrades. A home needs maintenance just like our bodies need maintenance. And I
Absolutely.
had that problem. One of the little valves by one of our in our water closets bursted and my whole ground floor flooded. And guess what? The insurance said, well, you don't have water coverage,
Oh wow.
right? So that is really important, especially like you mentioned, when you have kids and people are not even aware, right?
Yeah, things can happen, and like for example, water coverage is you have three types of coverage or toppings that you can add to your policy, and the good thing is that they don't have like a massive impact on your price. Of course, you can save 150 up to $500 depending on the size of the house, right? Of course. But you have water backup, which is like, let's say your kid throws a toy in the toilet and it gets caught, and now you have water everywhere. And then the floor gets damaged, the closet, the carpet, or whatever. Those are claims that if you don't have this topping, you cannot have access to, right? The other one is constant seepage and leakage. This is like you have a pipe like dripping for over 14 days, and then the pipe bursts, and then you have to take down the wall and then replace the pipes and then put in the wall. Those are things that will have to come out of your pocket if you don't have this. And the other thing, it's this is a big one because I've seen it. One thing, so just to give you context, I'm sorry. I used to be in real estate in California, right? So once we got into escrow with a home, and when we inspected the foundation, it had a lot of mold. It was rotten, a lot of humidity in there. So this is another part of the coverage, which is for foundation. All right, foundation can be really expensive,
Right.
so if you have leakage down there, I mean, tell me how many times in a month do you go down and check your foundation? I'm pretty sure as homeowners wouldn't pay attention to that, but it's like just like a cavity. You just want to make sure you're protected.
Absolutely. And you guys, we are here. I need to emphasize this. We are here because we care. We care that you are protected. I'm doing all of this, setting up all of these lives so we can educate, so we can share knowledge, we can make sure you are empowered when making these super big decisions in your life. Because I think besides getting married, having kids, buying a house is huge, right? So it's in the top five of your life, right? So we want to make sure you're protected. I want you to get to know who are the people in my team. So when I send you those emails or those video texts or those video emails, and hey, I'm going to connect you with Chris. This is Chris. This is Chris with a K, and he's here to help you. And why is that so important? You know what? I'm a home buyer myself. I've done this quite a few times. And before I even knew what an insurance broker was, and having a local rep that I can physically go and meet, have coffee, or go to their office, I would try to call these companies and I never talked to the same person. No one explained what a home policy in detail really is. No one ever sat down with me and went through my policy and explained what is the coverage. And yes, Claudia, this may be a little bit more expensive, but look how much more you are going to be able to get if anything happens. And that's why we're here today. We are here to make sure that you understand, for example, the answer to this question. Chris, is my home covered for replacement costs or actual cash value? How
Good.
does that work?
Yeah. So this is like the type of policy you buy. So just to give you a bit of an analogy, let's say that you have a TV, right? So that TV has insurance. In one situation or one scenario, we have replacement cost, and the other one we have actual cash value. So the TV got damaged, and you submitted a claim through replacement cost. That means that you're going to get a Best Buy TV, a brand new TV on the box. If you get actual cash value, you can compare it to Goodwill. Will be like a secondhand, like a lower quality type of replacement, because it's actual cash value. And normally, whenever you get actual cash value, those policies are lower in price. But an insurance cheap does not mean good. Like, I understand that price is a big thing for a lot of people, especially when they're kind of limited with the debt to ratio income, which is how much you can afford, how like what monthly payment can you afford, and we need to make sure that insurance fits in there. But we also, it's my responsibility as your insurance agent to make sure that you are protected, because when you need insurance, then you will be like, oh, this Chris guy didn't tell me what I needed, why am I paying so much? So we need to find a balance in there. I always recommend replacement cost, because like, who wants to get a lower quality of material?
Absolutely. What deductible options are available and how will they impact my premium? So let's talk about deductibles and let's talk about premium.
Absolutely. So the deductible goes hand by hand with the main part of the coverage, which is coverage A or dwelling. So, Claudia, if you could please share the quick quotes I have in there. Like, if you can share the screen, let me know
Yeah,
once it.
it's done.
Okay, so this is an actual quote, right? So this is the way it looks. This is through Mercury. So let me show you guys here. This is mandatory coverages, right? As you can see, we have access to some optional coverages, which will be the toppings. We just talk about water backup and some others, but we have, as you can see, a list in here.
Right.
So this right here is the main part of the coverage, which is towards everything else revolves. As you can see, coverage B is 10% of this, coverage C is 50% of that. So in this particular scenario, like at least here in the state of Texas, right? We have all other perils, which are like fire or everything else other than hurricane, windstorm, or hail. So as you can see, we have two type of deductibles. So 1% for, let's say, a massive fire that brought your home down to the ground, and you need to rebuild it 100%. You will have to pay 2,530, which is 1% of the main coverage, in order for you to be able to rebuild a home if it was a fire. If it's a hurricane, you will need to pay 3% of this amount,
Right.
which equals to 7,590. Now, the total policy premium for this is 892. It's really low, honestly, because it's a small house. But
That's really good.
yeah, it's a good price. So it has it's a balance per se. So if I were to increase the deductibles, because the deductibles can be increased up to 5%.
Right.
I've seen 10%, but like really high. That's a really high deductible. One and two, um, I'll need to check with the loan officer to see if they will accept that, because some lenders require a maximum of 5% deductible. So it's like a balance. So the higher your deductible is, the premium will go down.
Right.
But you have to keep in mind that when you have to submit a claim. So instead of doing 1%, will need to do 5, just to sacrifice a little bit on the premium, or the other way around, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you talked about claims.
Hmm.
So how does the claim process work and how long does it usually take to resolve a claim? How is the process?
Okay, so here in Goosehead, we have a dedicated team that is a service team. Like, all the claims will need to go through them so they can file it with the carrier. So it's like an easier process because you streamline it. So you submit a claim, and they open a case. So they immediately go ahead and report it with the carrier. The carrier will start an investigation process that could take from 24 up to 72 hours to give you a response. They might need pictures. They might need to go and inspect the place, and then they'll give you a turnaround. Usually, it's quite quick, especially when we have like a major natural disasters like hurricanes. They expedite it. They put like go all hands on deck, but it varies per carrier. So I'll suggest to review who do you have, and kind of do some background work, or contact your insurance agent.
That is a really good point. I actually had this question this morning. I was talking to someone about going live with you, and the person asked, Is there a way let me see if I can phrase it the way the person put it. Is there a way for us to know how many claims a carrier is working on? Like if they are backlogged, I mean, if they have a lot of claims.
I don't think so. Because like each company, they have like a pool of money assigned to claims, and that takes me to like a bit of a tangent right there. Um, for example, with Barrel left 1.2 bill in damages in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
so that led into some carriers like going into moratorium and withdrawing their service here. Like Progressive, for example, we used to ride home insurance with Progressive. They had really good rates, but they paused it. Universal, they don't ride in Harris County, for example, because of the risk that it involves. So we don't know what's like the available amount that they will be paying in claims, but we'll definitely see some flags if they're like, whoa, let's hold off from writing new business.
Chris, what happens? We only have two more questions for you, and this one is not on our list. What happens if I have a carrier that went into moratorium? They are no longer. What happens to that client? What can we do for them?
Um, okay, so if they already have business with that carrier, it's they're legally bind to pay out the claim, right?
Okay.
Of course, as long as it's a claim that is a valid one, they do an investigation. Perfect. They'll go ahead and pay it. But like the way the insurance carriers work is like they kind of like try to foresee things because it's like they close the door. If you're in, they'll take care of you. But if you're out, we'll need to look into some other carriers. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about a subject that I love. I didn't know anything about umbrella policies until my Goosehead agent actually brought it to my attention. It was really nice. What seemed at first to be a sales pitch actually ended up being what saved me about $2,000 a year. That's a ticket to go to the motherland and see my family, you guys. So I don't know what you could do with $2,000. I certainly can do a lot, depending on each situation. Tell us a little bit about what is a liability limit and when should someone consider a policy? When can one qualify for an umbrella policy?
Yeah. So basically, the umbrella is like an extra layer of protection. So one thing you see a lot here in Texas is that people on their vehicles, for example, they have the minimum state limits, which are 30,000 for per person, 60,000 for the whole accident, and 25,000 for personal property. But let's say that you collide against a Ferrari, like the liabilities will be more than that a certain amount. Let's say that this is the most expensive Ferrari that is like $100,000, and you only have 6,000. Then you don't have enough liability. Like your insurance will only cover as much, and then you have to come out of pocket for the rest. You know what I'm saying? So this is when the umbrella kicks in. Now, the umbrella has certain requirements in terms of that you need to have a minimum liability. So it varies per carrier. I think it's 250. In some of them. So when like amounts they surpass that, that's when the umbrella kicks in. Like for home policies, for example, you can have 300 or $500,000. But let's say that you get lawsuit, and you're like responsible for whatever, and then you need to pay 1 million. So that's when your umbrella will kick in and save you $500,000 out of your pocket.
Absolutely. Also, one other thing is I was talking to this lady that was mentioning that she has two teenagers, she has twins,
Hmm.
someone that I know, and they are about to start driving, and that insurance is very expensive. And I reached out to insurance people,
Yeah,
and the umbrella policy can also help in those cases, right? When especially when you have teenagers starting to get out there.
absolutely. One day I was in on an Uber, just like talking, to the driver, and the driver told me that she was telling me about the accidents they had, and she was like on this lane, and then an 16-year-old that just got his license the day before. Looks like he saw some of his friends like sitting in a coffee, and he did like this, and bam, they collided immediately. And I thought that, wow, like teenagers or like young adults driving, that's a factor that will definitely increase the price on your, what do you call, on your main policy. And
Yeah.
some carriers, they have that question: does the insurer have any umbrellas? Because like they know that they wouldn't be taking the whole hit. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it more makes you more attractive in terms of a risk for an insurance company.
Right. Absolutely. You guys, it's not just about selling you a product or selling you a home. We want you to be safe all around. I cannot express that enough. So if you are watching the video or you came across it in your feed on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you are watching it right now, just reach out. We're real people that want to help real situations. When should you be looking at your policy? So if you're not buying a home right now, and you're not planning to buy a house anytime soon, I'm sure you still have insurance. If you're renting, you have renter's insurance. If you don't, call Chris right now. And you probably have a car. I don't know anyone in Houston that doesn't have a car unless if they're under 16 years old. If they are over 16, everyone has a car. So it's time for you to review that policy. If you have bought a home already, it's been a year, two, three, review your policy. So much has changed in the last year as far as insurance goes. Christy is here to attest to that. We have a lot of companies that have changed the way that they do business. Some of them are no longer even issue certain kind of coverages. So review those policies. Is a free service to you. Chris can, I can connect you with Chris. He can review your policy, have a conversation with you, and see if you indeed can do some improvements. And if you don't even know if you have an umbrella policy, because I didn't until I got with my Goose Head agent, it can save you a ton of money because maybe you could fall under that category and you just don't know. So please, please, please just reach out. We're here to help you. And no, you do not pay me. And no, you do not pay Chris. You do pay for the policy once you sign up for it. But that's pretty standard, right? Now let's go on to our last question of the day. How does the policy handle living expenses if my home isn't inhabitable? This question comes from me. I want people to know. I have had, as I mentioned, if you listen to the video earlier on, that I had a flood on my ground floor. We couldn't live in the house. We had all the machines because of mold and whatever else, make sure everything was right. And so say that something like that happens, what can we do for clients, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the mandatory coverage section, that will be under coverage D as in David, which is called loss of use. So basically, when you submit a claim and you cannot stay on home, let's say that a branch fell on the roof,
Fire, whatever.
is coming in, and of course you cannot live in there. You need to go to a hotel. You need to go to an Airbnb, or the power is out because of that branch, and then like all your food is like damaged, like it's no longer eatable. So you need to spend money on food, you need to spend money on Airbnbs, you need to spend money on hotel. So this part, loss of use, is usually 10 to 20% of the whole, or the main amount of your policy. So you have additional living expenses for sure. That's why that part is mandatory, because what if.
That's perfect. I like that. That's very good. You guys, I think we covered a lot of questions here. If you still have any other questions about insurance, the main thing you need to know is we're here for you. We'll answer any questions. Chris is more than happy to review any policy you have. Again, it's free of cost to review that policy. It's a service that we'll provide to you. And if there is any improvements that he sees you can do, just, go for it. Be protected, protect your family, protect your teenagers that are driving, protect your big investment. It's very important because, you may need to sell it one day or you need to have a roof over your head, right?
Yeah. And Claudia, as a little bit of a bonus,
Yes.
For our audience today, I like to throw out some tips and tricks to beat the system in insurance, right? So there are like factors that we as insurance brokers take into consideration to give you additional discounts. If you have alarms through Viv, I think it's called a company, or through Ring, whatever, you can have a certificate or a contract.
Right.
Send that over to your insurance agent, because we can give discounts for alarms, for burglar alarms, smoke detectors can give you discounts as well. As I mentioned, if you bundle things like home and auto, you can save up to 30%. If you have a good credit, that as well will give you discounts. If you have like higher liability limits on previous policies, that will give us discounts. Age of construction on a home is very important. And of course, the roof. The roof is the biggest thing you need to make sure is it's like kind of like a young. If it's like older than 15 years old, some carriers wouldn't take the risk, or you will get actual cash value, aka the goodwill replacement thing. But hey, I do have some other tips and tricks that I can help you all. Just let Claudia know, and she can connect us. So yeah, just wanted to say.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you being there. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with you in the back studio. I just want to talk a little bit about the next sessions. Okay. So don't go
Yes.
anywhere. Thank you
All
for
right.
being here. Okay.
Thank you for having me. See ya.
One moment. All right, you guys. So before we wrap it up, this is what I want to share with you. So we are going to go live again on November 5th. We're going to go live with Ilsa Cienfuegos. I love her name. Also part of my Spanish speaking team. We are going to talk about interest rates. What affects them? What are they? How should you be looking at interest rates? And it's so timely because everyone has been waiting to buy a home because of the elections, and November 5th is drum roll day, right? So we're going to go live as well on November 7th. We're going to talk about loans for heroes with one of my good friends and loan officer, Dee Carter. We're going to talk about loans for people that give back to the community. This is so dear and close to my heart. If you are a first responder, a correction officer, if you are an MS, if you are working with the community, we have loans for you that can help you get into homes because we care. We want to make sure to give back. And when you work with me as a realtor, I also have some really amazing discounts for you because I want you to know that I appreciate you. November 19th, what's credit? What is credit? It's not just a question for someone like me that came from another country. I cannot tell you how many times I have spoken to born and raised in the US that have no idea about credit. So everyone should learn about credit, especially if you are 16, especially if you are 17, especially if you are 18. My favorite clients are 21 years old. They saved money and they bought their first investment property. They have it rented. By the time they are done with college, the house is paid for. And this is because she came from Honduras, learned about credit, and now she bought an investment property. College student, smart cookie. On the 21st, we're going to talk about what is home equity. This is very important. A lot of you out there have a lot of equity in your homes. And you're going to be facing capital gains. So let's talk about with equity and what you can do with it. So we care. We want to make sure you are informed and empowered. Keep coming back. And if you want to know more about the classes, register for our upcoming home buyer and downsizing classes. Just visit our website. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.